The fog, dense as damp linen, draped over the shoulders of old Blackwood Manor. The windows, like empty eyes, stared into the encroaching darkness. A silent omen hung in the frigid air. Eliza, her hand trembling on the cold doorknob, felt a shiver crawl down her spine. The agonizing creak of old wood was the only sound amidst the oppressive silence. She took a deep breath, the air thick with dust and a sweet, forgotten perfume. The interior of the manor was a labyrinth of dancing shadows. Furniture draped in ghostly sheets appeared like sleeping figures, awaiting a dark awakening. The echo of her own footsteps resonated like an afflicted heart. A whisper, almost inaudible, floated through the stale air. It seemed to come from the walls, the floorboards, from every forgotten corner. A dark invitation to lose oneself in ancient secrets. The beam of her weak flashlight illuminated old paintings, their gazes seeming to follow her with every step. Pale, stern faces, guarding stories the darkness tried to suffocate. A door creaked open slowly, without any hand touching it. A silent invitation to enter the heart of despair. The scent of mold and damp earth was palpable, an invitation to oblivion. The room she found was a sanctuary of the past. An empty crib awaited a child who would never come. A porcelain doll, with fixed eyes and a disturbing smile, rested in a corner. Eliza felt a chill that wasn't from the weather, but from the faint echo of an ancient pain. A baby's cry, weak and distant, seemed to envelop the room, a ghostly melody. The walls seemed to breathe, the murmurs intensifying, weaving a veil of despair over her sanity. A resonating echo of forgotten voices, lost in the mist of time. A flicker of movement in the corner of her eye. A shadow denser than the others, gliding at the edges of her perception. Eliza turned abruptly, but there was nothing. The temperature dropped drastically, the vapor from her breath condensing in the icy air. A subtle touch on her neck, like cold fingers tracing her skin. She found an ancient diary, with yellowed pages and faded handwriting. Each line written was a lament, a confession of fears the manor seemed to have swallowed. The text spoke of unbearable loneliness, of a presence that fed on sadness. A nameless entity that whispered cruel hopes on moonlit nights. A creak of floorboards upstairs. Slow, heavy footsteps that belonged to no living being. Eliza held her breath, her heart hammering against her ribs. A door slammed shut in the distance, echoing through the corridors like dark thunder. Every sound was an omen, every silence an invitation to madness. The porcelain doll, previously inert, seemed to have shifted its position. Its vacant eyes now fixed directly on Eliza, a cold, malevolent gleam in them. The whisper returned, closer, clearer. A voice that seemed to come from within her own mind, promising solace in exchange for her soul. Eliza felt her life force being drained, as if the manor itself was feeding on her fear. The walls seemed to close in, the darkness becoming tangible. She saw phantoms moving in the shadows, distorted shapes dancing in an unholy ballet. They were not shadows, they were the trapped souls, crying for liberation. The old mirror in the hallway reflected something that wasn't there. A fleeting glimpse of a shadowy figure, with eyes burning like embers in the blackness. An icy shiver ran through her body, a touch that was not physical, but spiritual. The presence was getting closer, its oppressive aura crushing any hope. The closed doors hummed with a latent energy. Each one, a portal to a different nightmare, waiting to be unlocked. Eliza tried to flee, but the path back seemed obscured. The manor's memories mingled with visions of her own end, a macabre dance. The baby's cry resurfaced, louder, more desperate. It seemed to come from within the walls, a lament imprisoned for eternity. A cold laugh echoed through the main hall. It was not human, it was a guttural sound, from the depths of decay. A laugh that promised endless torment. The candles she had lit to ward off the shadows seemed to dwindle, their flames flickering weakly, like hearts about to be extinguished. A door on the lower hall creaked open with an agonizing groan. An even deeper darkness, a black hole that seemed to suck the very light. Eliza felt an invisible force pull her towards the darkness. The hope of escape vanished, replaced by a somber resignation. She saw pale, distorted faces pressed against the windows, their pleading eyes fixed on her. Lost souls, bound to this dimension of suffering. The whisper turned into a prolonged lament, a cacophony of tortured voices. Blackwood Manor was not a place, it was a state of being, eternal despair. The flashlight failed, plunging her into absolute darkness. The silence that followed was more terrifying than any sound, an abyss that threatened to swallow her, a sensation of freefall, with no ground to catch her. She was being pulled down, to a place where light could never reach. The closed doors came alive, trembling on their hinges as if trapped in a constant nightmare. Their thuds echoed her terror. A fragmented image of a child materialized in the air, its eyes watering and filled with fear. The cause of all the desolation, the seed of darkness, the whisper became possession. She felt her own voice echo in her mind, no longer hers, but something ancient and hungry. The walls twisted, forming grotesque faces on their surface. Every crack, every fissure, an eye watching her agony. The porcelain doll fell from its shelf, shattering on the floor into 1,000 pieces. But its eyes, intact, continued to stare at her, now with cruel delight. She tried to scream, but no sound came out. Her throat was dry, fear suffocating her more deeply than the dense air. An electric shiver ran through her body, as if hundreds of insects were crawling beneath her skin. A sensation of final violation. The old manor released its laments, a chorus of lost souls trapped in the bowels of its desolation. The echo of a story that repeated infinitely, a final glimpse of light, a minuscule crack in the veil of darkness. A silent plea for someone to come and save her, but the silence returned, deeper, more absolute. Blackwood Manor had claimed another soul for its icy, eternal embrace. The closed doors remained firm, guarding their dark secrets. Each one, a mausoleum of whispered fears. The wind outside howled, carrying with it the echoes of an inaudible scream. The night swallowed any trace of presence, leaving only a lingering melancholy. The fog returned, covering the manor like a shroud. Eliza's story joined the countless whispers trapped behind the closed doors. Time continued, indifferent to the desolation that befell. Blackwood Manor, a monument to terror, patiently awaiting the next unsuspecting soul, and in the silent depths, a faint whisper echoed. A veiled invitation to enter, to get lost, to become another story told by the closed doors. The moon, a pale, watching eye, cast distorted shadows on the ruined facade. The darkness deepened, ready for another tragedy. The faint crackling of dry branches sounded like stealthy footsteps. The manor, dormant, held nightmares in its abandoned rooms. The sweet, old scent, once almost imperceptible, now lingered stronger. An aroma of decay and lost souls. A shadowy figure crossed one of the farthest corridors. The darkness swallowed it, leaving only doubt and fear. The architecture itself seemed to conspire against sanity. Impossible angles, shadows that stretched beyond what the light allowed. A distant lament, like the cry of a lost child, echoed through the manor again. A cycle of pain that would never end. The floorboards creaked under a non-existent weight. The manor breathed its own aura of terror, an unwanted guest in its own home. A single tear rolled down Eliza's face, which was now just an echo in the manor's mind. A memory fading into the veil of oblivion. The manor's gate creaked, a silent promise that the door was always open to those who succumbed. The stars, if they existed above the fog, would bear silent witness. Blackwood Manor, a point of darkness in a world that preferred to forget, and in the silence that settled, a barely perceptible whisper unfolded. An eternal invitation to the abyss, a call that would always be heard by the most fragile hearts.